I guess all of those rumors were correct, that nobody wanted to deal with Howie Roseman. Nobody wanted to take a call from Howie Roseman. All the behind the scenes when it came to the draft was true. And the Eagles still got their guy in Jihad Campbell. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the 5th round corner out of UCF. Just signed his contract. And what does it mean for him going down the road in this offseason program? So good amount of stuff to talk about today. So let's get straight into it all.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day today. So definitely some interesting things to talk about here. And the first thing I want to go over is another draft pick is signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. We obviously go after these one by one. And Mac McWilliams, the 5th round pick out of UCF. Okay. We've talked about him a great deal. This was probably the pick of the draft where a lot of Eagle fans were kind of like, I'm not really sure about this one. The more I hear about it, the more I kind of look into it and see the context behind this pick and why they did it. Obviously, when it comes to Vic Fangio's defense, he's always looking for guys that doesn't matter with size most of the time. It's mostly getting guys with versatility, speed, toughness, high motor, you name it. And I think Mac McWilliams has that in a small corner that could play outside and inside. But I think the Eagles are bringing him into the offseason program as strictly an inside corner. But you can always put him on the outside if you really want to. So we look at the corner position. You're looking at that number 2 spot. We'll see how that kind of goes down, when we get to training camp and when things really progress into the preseason games. And then you have the inside where behind Cooper DeJean, you really don't have much of anybody. You lost some corners due to comp picks. And you lost, obviously, you lost Slay, you lost Isaiah Rodgers, and then, you lost Avonte Maddox to Detroit, and not like we wanted him back anyway. But this is a guy right here that could, he's very rangy, good footwork. Coverage is pretty good. It's just there's a size problem, and but he plays big for what he is, and he would have been drafted probably a little bit earlier if he was a little bit taller, maybe a little bit bigger. So, these are the metrics that the Eagles don't care about. You play with heart and you have the skill set. They're not going to waste their time and not pick you because of it. Obviously, the Eagles want to pick him at the right moment, and I think they did, So there's a lot really going on with this cornerback spot. Mac McWilliams gets his contract. Obviously, his rookie deal is signed, and can't wait to see him play, to see, what happens with him as a nice depth piece for this team going forward. So really like that draft pick as, the days go on, which is kind of nuts. But we're going to be talking about the draft, okay? We had the unscripted episode come out of the Eagles War Room. My favorite videos, I would have to say, that come out during the year in the offseason is obviously the draft in the War Room type videos where Howie Roseman is wheeling and dealing or try to wheel and deal. But it was actually really tough to get anything done. The Eagles were sitting at 32, obviously, and they were trying to trade up with a lot of teams. I think it was the Chargers at 22, 23. And really, since that trade never went down, they called the Chargers. They were getting something done. The Eagles were giving up. Teams were giving up at that point at the early 20s, like 2 third-round picks, something like that. So they were giving up some mid-round pick compensation. But when it started getting to the mid-20s, there were teams starting to really trade up and, give away future first-round picks, which was absolutely ridiculous for non-generational players, just for ceiling players, just like when the Atlanta Falcons moved up to get James Pierce Jr. Kind of made no sense to me why you'd give up that much, a first-round pick for the next year in 26. That's way too much compensation. The Eagles were not giving up draft picks for 26, which now they have, 12 picks right now for the 26 draft, and they were able to hold on to every single one of them. Okay. Howie Roseman just seemed like he was very tired, not tiring, but he was just like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get a trade up. So they couldn't trade up with they just decided to pick. The Chargers decided to pick. They tried to trade up with Green Bay, Minnesota, Baltimore, Houston. I mean, they tried. I mean, every phone call, they tried doing something, and nobody was taking his calls. Detroit, Same thing. I forgot what team it was, but there was an actual team that put Howie on hold, and there was elevator music playing. I'm not kidding. They put Howie on hold. It's absolutely insane. We saw before the draft, right before the draft was around the corner, there were rumors coming out that a lot of teams were going to trade back. Okay, that was the truth, but the fact of the matter is there was reports coming out that nobody's going to take Howie Roseman's calls. Okay, which is absolutely crazy. And it's funny because they actually went to call Adam Peters. Obviously, he's the GM for the Washington Commanders. That was like their last attempt to trade up. Okay. And Adam Peters was like, yeah, sorry, but it's going to cost an in-division tax. Like, Howie Roseman called nicely and was like, hey, I want to keep this thing going. We usually trade, we kind of keep this thing going every single year. So let's get something done. You want like a small trade back? No, you're going to need it's going to cost an in-division tax, which means that they would probably have to give up. I mean, they were at pick 28, 29, whatever it was. So they would have to give up, obviously, a lot more just to move up a few spots. And obviously, Howie Roseman I think I don't know if Adam Peters hung up the phone. I think he just hung up, which, they're butthurt from last year. I get it. So that's just how they are. We'll take care of them later to realize what they have done. So then it came down to realistically, KC. And the trade up there from 32 to 31. Okay. The trade up from 32 to 31, why they gave KC a free 5th round pick is, I think it was 164. I think that was the pick that they traded. And I think part of it was because a lot of teams were calling to trade up with the Chiefs. So they wanted to get something done as fast as possible. And then they were able to get the trade done. And then they were able to get Jihad Campbell. Okay. Which was good. I think they did like the tackle that went to Washington. They said James Pierce Jr.'s name, but I think they just said they were just kind of guessing when Atlanta traded up with Houston, and gave away that future first rounder. They just kind of guessed what it was. I think James Pierce Jr. was on their board, but I don't know if that was the player they really wanted. And obviously giving up a future first round pick was absolutely ridiculous. So they were able to sit at 32, trade up to 31, one spot, giving KC a free 5th round pick. Who cares? The Eagles would have gave up a lot more trading up into the early 20s. They were going to give up a couple thirds. I don't know what the exact compensation was, but it was a third and some other mid-round picks. So I don't think they were giving up a future first rounder. I'm not sure. I don't think that was the case. But once you got into the mid 20s, these teams were asking for crazy compensation. And the Eagles, literally, it was like 5 teams. He called every team for a trade up. And nobody wanted to deal with Howie Roseman. Either got hung up on, he was put on hold, and the Eagles still got their guy. Okay. Obviously, when you got into day 2, it's 2nd, 3rd round, and then day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then teams are going to lighten up and accept trades, trade ups, trade backs. It's much easier for Howie Roseman to trade on those days. So now you have 12 picks going into 26. I think they had a really good draft. We'll see how it pans out. And they still got their guy. Much respect. My favorite thing that happened, okay, from this entire draft after Jihad Campbell was drafted, you saw linebacker coach Bobby King and you saw Vic Fangio kind of get into the room. I don't know where Vic Fangio was. I don't know if he's in a different room with the other coaches or the defensive coaches, and maybe he's on a thing with Howie Roseman on a call thing or something. I don't know where these guys are at, but Fangio looked really happy, like really happy. So I like that this is the guy that they wanted, and that's all that matters. If Vic Fangio is happy, and Bobby King is probably one of the best linebacker coaches in the league. Okay. And he was a guy that wasn't even hired by Vic Fangio. Somebody on the staff was like, yo, go hire Bobby King. He's got a lot of experience with linebackers. And that's what the Eagles really did in 2024 in that offseason. They hired experience. 10 plus years, 10 plus years of experience with some of the best positional coaches we have. And I think Bobby King is definitely a big one here. Came from Tennessee. Al Shire, I think, became a Pro Bowler because of him and got a new contract when he left the Tennessee Titans. So Vic Fangio being happy is me being happy, and that's all that matters. The excitement is there. You don't see Vic Fangio that excited about things, but let me tell you, I haven't seen a defensive corner be excited about a pick since, I would say, when Jonathan Gannon was excited about when we drafted Milton Williams. I think that was the last time I saw, like, it was like so much excitement from a DC. And now you're seeing it with Vic Fangio getting their guy. Obviously, Jeffrey Lurie getting on the phone with Jihad Campbell. We've been trying to get you for an hour, so they would have gave up a lot more draft compensation. So I thought this process was interesting. Because I like to see the behind the scenes of, like, how did it happen? Seems like the 24 draft fell into our hands with obviously Quinyon Mitchell is a first round talent, barely having to move. And obviously Cooper DeJean fell right into our lap with a mini trade up. You know what I mean? And now you do it again with Jihad Campbell. So, I mean, look, that's fantastic. That's awesome to see. So if you guys haven't watched it, definitely watch it. But I just wanted to reminisce. I want to kind of reminisce on this, just the draft day behind the scenes and everything like that. Jihad Campbell's going to be a great prospect for us, great player for us for years to come. And, just get healthy as much as possible, miss as much time as you need to miss, because once he puts that helmet on, he's on the field. It ain't going to take him that long. So we're very excited about the process. But other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. We pretty much talked about Mac McWilliams signing his contract. And how did you feel about the draft? Do you think it kind of fell into our own hands right here, staying at 32, trading up one spot? And do you think the league has it out for Howie Roseman? And that's really the big question here, because I felt like teams are jealous. I felt like, and it's ridiculous, dude. Like, there's always going to be a different team or the same team that wins the Super Bowl every year. And it's just like, I'm not going to answer his calls because we're not getting fleeced. And sometimes you won't get fleeced. Sometimes it is a fair trade at times. But I want just from you guys to let me know on that situation. Howie Roseman's getting hated by all these other teams now. Maybe you pick the right players and some of these players might not fall into our lap. We know the history with Jihad Campbell and why he lasted as long as he did because of the shoulder surgery after the combine. And, I get it. He had a knee issue his freshman year of college. Who cares about that? It's been a few years already. So a lot to discuss here, but it is what it is. How do you guys feel about it? Other than that, guys, it's pretty much make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Eagles news every single day. And make sure you like the video because it helps out tremendously. As usual, you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Love you all. Shake squad up. Fly all slide. Peace out, guys. Peace.